Hi, Clanking students. Today we're going to focus on classical Americas. I know Mr. Anselmi and Ms. Dixon have looked at other classical empires or civilizations. Today we're going to focus on the Americas. I find the Americas hugely fascinating, mostly because of the unknown. There's always something new that is found almost every single year with a different civilization or an important artifact that's found in civilization. So if you want to do anything historically related, outside of teaching or outside of working in a museum, a cool place is going and finding stuff in the Americas. Like I said, you'll have job security because there's so much stuff that is still unknown with the Americas. So let's hop into it. Unlike what we've seen previous in like China and India and Africa and Europe, is that the Americas are isolated. So they really only trade within themselves, and to the fact that even within themselves there's barriers that are set up where it's hard to get around. Maybe it's a rainforest, or maybe it's a desert. So they're pretty isolated within their trade. So when we see rise and fall, they're pretty much isolated. So there's many different societies with North Mesoamerica and South America. That includes the Olmecs, Teotihuacan, Mayans, Mississippians, Chavans, Mochis. One that we won't get to, but I find hugely entertaining as well, as the Toltecs, the Tula, the Mexica, so on and so forth. I mean, you can continue on and on and on and on. So let's look at a couple of the significant ones when it comes to present day Americas. So the Olmecs is one of them. They were around the Gulf of Mexico area, so the coast along San Lorenzo, Guadalajara, so on and so forth. They were known as the rubber people because they used rubber on a daily basis, because there was a lot of rubber trees around them. So they were known as rubber people. There was an authoritative government, which is pretty consistent throughout the Americas, whether South America or North America, a very authoritative government. They're known for their giant human heads that were created. They were usually, there was an indication that they were they were carved by people to look like their rulers, as well as their jade masks. So they had huge pyramids. They had huge trade networks that were going on with Central America and all the way into with the Mayans and so on and so forth. Their decline is really unknown. There's a lot of unknown about it besides the artifacts that they have. So the huge heads, the pyramids, and the jade masks that came out of that time period. The Maya are another one. The Maya really started in the highlands of Guatemala, and they were a large series of networks, decentralized city states. So there was a main hub, which was Tikal, and then a lot of city states around there. So innovations of the Mayan calendar, which is based on astronomy, which is very, very accurate. If you look at astronomy, when the moon says, when the stars are aligned, when the stars here, when the sun's in a certain place, so on and so forth. So Mayan calendar is a very, very accurate, complex writing system. The concept of zero also comes during this time period. Tikal is a huge Mayan political center. At one point in time, there's 40,000 people, which is a huge major city, even no matter what civilization you're looking at during that time period. They had enormous plazas, the temples, the pyramids, the palaces, so on and so forth, which you see in this area right here. Okay, so other ones, and political center eventually moves to Chichen Itza as the Mayans start to decrease in their power around the 8th century. So it moves to the Yucatan Peninsula. It becomes more of a loose empire where it's not just a central location to call and everybody else, but it becomes really, really decentralized city states because of that. So once again, massive trade networks, the decline in the 8th century, except for Chichen Itza. So we see a huge decline in it. And the reason why it's unclear, that scholars think maybe it was because they become so decentralized that they started just forming their own society, or a drought, or it could be some type of catastrophic event, or numerous different reasons that people have talked about. But we do know it was a massive decline. during that, except for Chichen Itza. Another something that we definitely need to talk about is Teotihuacan, which is called the City of the Gods. It's near modern day Mexico City. Hugely important. It's a multicultural urban trade center. At one point in time, there were 125,000 people, which was one of the largest cities in the world during that time period. It eventually abandoned in 650 CE. Once again, we're unsure about the reason why, whether it was drought or famine or conflict with the neighboring civilization, so on and so forth. This is kind of the start of the Aztecs and Toltecs, and Mayans are still there, so on and so forth. So we see that Teotihuacan eventually ends up becoming non-existent about 650 CE. Now we're going to switch to South America, old civilizations of the Chavín and the Mochi. Once again, a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of stuff known about the Incas because when the Europeans come over, the Incans are there. But before the Incans, a lot of unknown. There's two groups that we're going to look at: the Chavín and the Mochi. The Chavín were anywhere from 900 to 800 BCE, roughly. We know they vanished by about 300 BCE. Why do we know that? Because a lot of their cultural things, their ceramics, their buildings ceased to be built around 300 BCE. They had large temples, elaborate artwork that they used, so on and so forth. The Mochi were a predecessor to the Incan societies. They were exclusively up in the Andes Mountains in northern Peru. They lived from 300 to 700 CE before they were taken over by the Incans. It led to a lot of spiritual things of the Incan society that we eventually formed, a lot of ceramics and a lot of other stuff. The last one we're going to talk about is the Mississippians, which is in North America, which is near present-day St. Louis, along the Mississippi River, 8th to 16th century. It is a huge, vast trade network that happens in North America between all these different Native American groups, congregating in Cahokia, which is near, like I said, present day is St. Louis. This is a depiction of it. The top part is a depiction of it, which is right here. That's Cahokia, a depiction of it way back when, a rendering of it. This is presently what it looks like today. That's actually a modern picture of it. At the time, right before the usually 12th, 13th, 14th century, it was larger than London at that time. So huge, big cities that were during this time period. Something that you probably didn't learn, or I didn't learn definitely in school, was that when the Europeans came over, all of a sudden, hey, there's nobody there. But there was huge cities, there's huge trade networks, so on and so forth. So that is Classical Americas. I hope you take care of yourself and each other, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.